We've been talking about the NFL draft a ton recently, and I would say overall, it was a pretty entertaining draft. Didn't have a lot of flashy quarterbacks and a lot of flashy running backs, but there was a lot of receivers taken and a lot of defensive players taken. I also believe there's not a single team out there that is real pissed off or mad about their picks and their team's decisions. Normally, the Jets, Lions, and Giants always find a way to piss off their own fan base, but this year, they did a good job, and I got to give credit where it's due. The Lions did good. They got Hutchinson and Jameson Williams, and the Jets did good, and I don't know, somehow, some way, the Giants did good. But however, with all this going on with the draft, there's been one player in one situation that has really intrigued me the most out of everything. For those of you that have been watching the channel, you know I don't make too many NFL videos, and I don't talk about too many NFL topics. I have to talk about this one, though, because it is beyond fascinating to me. I just can't get over this situation. This situation and player I'm referring to is Baker Mayfield. This video in Baker Mayfield's dilemma at this given point in time, it goes hand in hand with the draft. I'm not going to explain the story. As we all know or should know, the Browns, they wound up moving on from him. They got Deshaun Watson, and it's left Mayfield in a sticky situation. Well, not only left him in a situation, but the entire Browns organization. Over the past couple of weeks, they've been trying to trade him, and it seems and appears like no team's really interested. Let me go back on that statement. It doesn't seem like no team's interested. No teams are interested, and that's just the flat-out, cold-hard truth. Do I agree with the Browns moving on with Mayfield? Yes. If you can get Deshaun Watson, and I'm not going to get in what happened off the field. I'm only talking about Deshaun on the field. If you can get a guy at his caliber over Mayfield, I say you got to do it. Deshaun Watson on the football field, he's a generational talent. Will Deshaun play this year? Will he get suspended? We don't know, but I'm talking about if he can play, I would have done the same thing. There's only about maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 quarterbacks in this entire league where you can look at it and say, yep, they can take my team to a Super Bowl and win it. You can count them on your fingers. You got Tom Brady, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson if he plays, and also Matt Stafford. That's 5 right there. I would say the other 3, 4, maybe possibly 5 is Aaron Rodgers, and I'm not even too sure about that one with how he's performed in the postseason recently. You got to throw Russell Wilson in there, and how can we forget about Patrick Mahomes? I like Dak Prescott, but I can't put him in that category just quite yet. That's about 8 right there, and I'm not too sold on Lamar Jackson quite yet, but if you do want to squeeze him in your top 8 or 9 that could win a Super Bowl, I'm not mad about that. I think Lamar's been great the past couple of years, and he continues to get better. Would I take him over Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow? No, but he's not too far behind. Whether the list is 8 quarterbacks or 10 quarterbacks, or maybe even possibly 12 for you of guys that can win a Super Bowl, are we even sure, and is there even a conversation that Mayfield is on that list? For example, some of the guys I'm not sure about, Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers at this given point in time, I wouldn't even put Baker Mayfield near them right now. Oh crap, my bad, don't kill me in the comment section. I forgot to mention Josh Allen. He's a top 5 quarterback in the league right now. I thought I mentioned him, but I realized I forgot. Sorry about that. But yeah, you got 8 or 9, 10 guys that can win a Super Bowl. You get my point. And with the way things are going for the Browns right now, they have a great O-line, maybe one of the best in the league. They also have a decent defense, and they have good skill position players. They're not looking for a top 20, 25 quarterback. They're looking for one of the best because the time is now. They've shown it and made it clear that they're going all in these next couple of years. It's boom or bust. They're not trying to be a 9-7, 7-9 team. You can like it, you can hate it, it doesn't matter. That's the way the league is going. All these teams, they're going to trade all these picks and go all in for 1 to 2, maybe 3 years, try to win a championship, and then they're going to rebuild for 10 to 15 more years. And that's worst case scenario. Best case scenario, you trade for these guys, get a great quarterback, and you're good for the next 20 to 25 years. That's exactly what we've seen with the Los Angeles Rams. Look at the Rams. Look at all the star power they have on that team. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not too sure about the draft history. I think the Rams have barely even had draft picks in the past couple of years and even going forward because they've traded all their picks. You can't even fault them for it because it worked out. They won a championship. This is how I feel about it. You can feel however you want. I'd rather go all in, trade all my assets for a championship and maybe be terrible for 4 to 5 years later down the road than go 9-7. 10-6 every single year. I also realize there's 17 games now in the NFL. I'm just so used to talking about the 16-game season. It almost comes to a point in time, like for the Dolphins, for example, the fan base is getting pissed off with being mediocre every single year. As a fan, do I want to see my team go 0-17, 1-16, 2-15? No, but if it promises me maybe in 5 or 6 years we're going to get the #1 pick and we'll win a Super Bowl, I think it's worth it. As a fan, I don't want you to tease me. I don't want to be good for 3 to 4 games and then lose 3 in a row. I either want to compete for a Super Bowl or I want to be rebuilding. No in-betweens. And like I said, if you feel differently, that's fine. I just value Super Bowls more than a 10-7 season. I don't think it's just me whenever we talk about the greatest basketball player of all time. Whenever we talk about the greatest football player of all time, what's the first thing we always bring up? It's championships and rings. Does winning a championship mean you're the best player ever? No, but it adds a ton to your legacy. Look at Chris Paul and the Suns. The reason he hasn't gotten the respect he deserves is because he hasn't won a championship. I can guarantee you, if Chris Paul wins a championship, everybody will talk about him in a different way. Should it be that way? Should winning a championship add that much to your legacy? Maybe not, but it is what it is. The ultimate goal, not just in football, basketball, but any sport, and the ultimate achievement, even from a personal player standpoint, is having a ring. Getting back on top of it, Baker, he's not a guy that any of these teams look at and say, I think he can take us and lead us to that Super Bowl and he can change our franchise around. I'm not a Baker fan by any means, so I don't want you to get me wrong, but I kind of feel bad for the dude. Is Mayfield a top 32 quarterback and can he start in the NFL? And should he be a starter in the NFL? Yes. Will he be a starter going into next year and will he ever start again? I don't know. The reason I say this, and I've never seen anything like it before, or at least in a while, there's no market for him right now. Everybody has mixed emotions about it, especially all these NFL teams. And if you don't want to take my word for it, there's a reason nobody has traded for him. They're not too sold on the fact that he's worth that $19 million he's guaranteed next year. It's not really the money they're concerned about, that's a small portion of it. It's more the fact, like I said, you either want a top 8 or 10 quarterback in the league or you want a bridge guy that can be the quarterback until you get your franchise guy in the future. For example, and I think it's a great one, look at Marcus Mariota with the Falcons. He knows and the Falcons know that he's going to be a decent bridge quarterback for the next guy to come in and take the job. They didn't give him some major big time deal, but he's also a quarterback that's going to bring in some fans. He's a good and capable quarterback, and best case scenario, he goes out there and balls out. When the Falcons signed him, though, they're not expecting him to go out there and play like a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes. And that's why I label quarterbacks like that as a bridge guy. He's not the final piece and destination, but he's a step to get there. I'm not knocking Mariota. Those type of players are good to have on your team. You also never know. His career could revive there, and next thing you know, the Atlanta Falcons, they're sitting pretty because they only paid $20-30 million for him. It wasn't that much, but I can't remember the exact details of his contract. Once again, I don't even think it's all about the money. It's more about the character you're bringing into your team. Before the draft, Mariota came out and said if the Falcons do choose to draft a quarterback, he's going to help them out as much as he can. Here's my question to you guys. Do you think Baker Mayfield would say the same thing and he would act the same way? No. For the longest, dating back to Texas Tech, he's had this persona and chip on his shoulder where he thinks everybody in the world's out to get him and he's got to prove them wrong. Yes, at one point in time, he did have to prove people wrong, but not anymore. The world's not against you. You was the #1 overall pick. You're not an underdog anymore. I wish he would grow up and quit acting like an immature child. And that's why I believe right now no team wants to trade for him, because he is immature. The NFL isn't college and he's learning that the hard way. They want a businessman at the quarterback, not a child. A reason for that is because his ego is through the roof, and sometimes you got to put your pride aside, not just in football, but in your everyday life. Until he does that, and until he becomes self-aware that he's not a top quarterback in the NFL, at least right now, he's going to have problems his entire career. When all this was happening at first, I thought it was no big deal. They're going to trade him to some team that could really use him and he'll bounce back. The one team I thought was a perfect ideal fit and he could potentially be there the next 10 years was the Colts. I thought Indianapolis could have used him and he would have done good in that city and the fans would have loved him. Unfortunately, though, they wound up going with Matt Ryan from Atlanta before all this drama was unfolding with Mayfield. When all of that got shut down, everybody's like, okay, no big deal. There's 2 to 3 more teams that could get him: the Steelers, the Panthers, and the Seahawks. The two favorites were the Panthers and the Steelers, and we'll talk about the Seahawks a little later on. The rumors going into the draft is that the Steelers or the Panthers, they may trade a pick so they can get Mayfield. But if you watch the draft, you would know that the Steelers, they picked up Kenny Pickett, so that shuts that one down, and then the Panthers, they wound up picking up Matt Corral late in the 3rd round. I talked about this earlier. I love Matt Corral. He was my QB1 going into the draft, and I only think he fell so far because of the injury he suffered at Ole Miss late in the season. I love everything about Matt Corral. I'm not high on Kenny Pickett, and I'm not high on Malik Willis. So right there, the two teams that everybody thought was the last chance for Baker Mayfield to go to and start, they wound up picking quarterbacks in the NFL draft instead of trading for Mayfield. I would say at that point in time, Mayfield's seeing all this unfold and he's getting a bad feeling in his stomach. You know why he's getting that bad feeling? Because I think reality is starting to set in that he might not be a starting quarterback next year. I don't even think it's just a might. There is a high chance and probability he won't be a starter from day one. Will he start later on in the year? Yeah, but I don't even know the answers to that because we don't know where he's going to go. And he could stay on the Browns if they don't even trade him. That would be an insane situation if the Browns decide to keep him on the roster, not trade him, and not cut him. Oh man, that's why I say this situation is so fascinating. Baker's pissed off with the Browns, that organization, and they're not too fond of him either. A lot of people are stating this: just because the Panthers, they select Matt Corral, that doesn't mean they still can't trade for Baker. I see what you're saying, and I still thought that up until it was released that the Panthers stated they're no longer interested in Mayfield. If you're wondering why they wouldn't want him, I understand it completely. You got a guy you picked up in the draft that's going to be battling for the quarterback competition with their other quarterback. The last thing you want is a Baker Mayfield also battling it out. I'm not going to say he's cancer to the team like a Russell Westbrook or he brings a toxic environment, but he kind of does. I'm not going to compare him to Russell Westbrook because Westbrook, he is beyond toxic and he's cancer to any team. Here's what I am going to do. I'll put Mayfield in his own category. He's childish. He's petty and he holds grudges. If you think I'm wrong about that, let's go back to the Mariota situation. Did you see him crying, complaining, and throwing a fit on social media when the Tennessee Titans decided to move on from him? No, you didn't hear a single word. You know why you didn't hear a single word out of him? Because him and Baker Mayfield are two different people. Mariota's mature, he sucked it up, didn't mope and complain, and he continued to work hard. I do want to give credit where it's due. Baker Mayfield, he works hard, he's got a great work ethic, and he's going to give you everything he got. But, he's not mature, and I don't know another way to say it. And when you act the way Mariota does, and you carry yourself in that great manner, you're going to get another chance in this league, and that's what happened. Even if things don't work out for Mariota with the Falcons, he's still making $20 million. Once again, I don't know the exact information on his contract. I can't remember it. I think it was 2 years, $14 million. It was something around that area. Remember, before the draft, there was only 3 possible destinations. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they're out of it, and now the Panthers, they're out of it. That leaves us with only one more team, the Seattle Seahawks, and they didn't pick a quarterback in the NFL draft, so that's good news for Mayfield. However, there is some bad news. According to the reports, it's been said that the Seahawks' interest in Baker Mayfield was lukewarm at best because he doesn't fit their system. That's not even just a rumor. They've been saying that for the past couple of weeks. They don't believe he's going to be a good fit. If you don't keep up with the NFL or Seahawks too much, let me give you some insight. Their offensive line is terrible, maybe the worst in the league, so that would be terrible for any quarterback, especially Mayfield coming off of injuries. The last thing you want as a quarterback in the NFL, ask Joe Burrow, is an offensive line that stinks. You'll get crushed. Also, the Seahawks have no playmakers outside of 1 or 2, and their defense has been completely ripped to shreds. In other terms, if you don't know what I'm trying to say, the Seahawks have basically made it clear and announced it to everyone, they're tanking. They're not tanking because that's illegal, but they're tanking, if you get what I'm trying to say. They're doing it in the best way possible. And when you're tanking, the last thing you want is a quarterback like Baker Mayfield. Why is that? Because he's better than their current quarterbacks, Drew Lock and Geno Smith. Theoretically speaking, Mayfield comes in and he gets that team to 5, 6, 7 wins. You don't want that if you're tanking. You want to only win 1, maybe 2 games. That's why I believe the Seahawks don't want them. Could they use them? Yes, but they're not trying to win these games. They're already looking at the quarterbacks coming into next year's draft, CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. Look at Bryce Young, good kid, not going to cause any problems. Look at CJ Stroud, good kid, not going to cause any problems. And then look at Mayfield. All these 3 quarterbacks I just listed off and named to you could potentially all be Heisman winning quarterbacks, and they're all great, But there's one big difference. That difference I'm referring to is their attitude. And ladies and gentlemen, if you think the mental part in your attitude doesn't matter in the NFL, I think you're sadly mistaken. If you want to be a millionaire, if you want to be a successful business person, whatever you want to do in your life, it all starts up here. It all starts in your mind. Your mindset is everything because it controls everything. And when you have a bad one, it can ruin everything. Bad mindset, bad attitude, and then bad problems. Last but not least, I'm going to read you off these 2 tweets, and I think it gives you a great perspective. First one is coming from a Seahawks fan, and he was talking about why he doesn't want Mayfield, and it's what I was talking about. He was replying to a tweet, and he said, if we get Mayfield, then we can't get Stroud or Bryce Young all to win us 7-10 games max. I hate the decision. I want Baker to go somewhere where all they're missing is a decent quarterback. Indy would have been best for him. Now I'm hoping for Pittsburgh. As we all know, like I said, Pittsburgh is out of the realm. And then last but not least, this is coming from a Panthers fan. I'll be honest, I'm much happier with Matt Corral than trading anything for Mayfield. That's the concerning part to me. I'm sure the Browns are only asking for a 5th, 6th, maybe a 4th round pick, and teams don't even want to give that up. The bottom line is, Baker isn't good enough to act the way he does. Him and Aaron Rodgers have the worst attitudes out there. The difference is Aaron Rodgers, he's just one of the most talented quarterbacks of all time, and he can get away with it. I can't stress this enough. I don't know where he'd fit in. It's similar to the housing market right now. Baker Mayfield, he wants a house, but there's none that are open for sale. And it's like when there was an opportunity, like with the Indianapolis Colts, it shut down within a day or 2. I'm wishing him the best of luck, but I don't know what's going to happen from here. Let me know your thoughts down below. But what up,